prominent Virginia Democratic Senator Tim Kaine, by the way, who's a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, told me this afternoon he wants to see some change in how Israel is going after Hamas. We spoke just a little while ago about the war as well as tomorrow's election in his home state. So, Senator, we saw the images outside of the White House over the weekend, these pro-Palestinian demonstrators shaking the gates. There was vandalism as well. They're calling for a ceasefire. Are they right? Do you feel that there should be a ceasefire?
Not against Hamas, because Hamas won't do a ceasefire against Israel. Hamas has pledged to annihilate Israel, and they've stated over and over again, even since October 7th, they're going to keep doing it. But there needs to be a clear differentiation between Hamas and Palestinians and Gazans. Most people who live in Gaza, they're not Hamas. They're under the thumb of Hamas. And so what Israel needs to do, and I've called for it with colleagues, is a humanitarian pause to enable the delivery of aid to these Gazans who are suffering, who are without water and food and medicine. And that can be difficult.
How does that work, though? Like the ambassador, Ambassador Herzog, when I asked him about a temporary pause, he said, I don't even know what that means.
He knows what it means. I talked to him, too, last week. He knows exactly what it means.
What did he tell you?
What it means is, why did Israel tell Gazans to move into the south? It was because they want to focus on Hamas in the north. But they can't block humanitarian aid in the south. When Gazans have done what they asked them to do, get out of harm's way and go to the south of Gaza, then they're entitled to get humanitarian aid, water, medicine, food. And Israel can help make that happen. And they need to help make it happen because they need to clarify that the war is against Hamas, not against Palestinians. And to the extent that it seems like the war is against Palestinians, it's hurting Israel and it's running the risk of bringing more parties into this conflict.
You saw the same polls over the weekend that I did. How worried are you that this issue could end up costing President Biden a swing state or more?
The last thing I'm worried about right now is polls. This is a very serious situation in Israel and Gaza. And, you know, I've had to answer a question from people that I've never had to answer in 30 years in public life, which is, could this be World War III? People are mindful of the World War I regional conflict, and then a new party joined, and another party joined, and another party joined, and then suddenly you had a global war. That's what is worrying me as a Virginian who's on the Armed Services and Foreign Relations Committee. I'm not worried about polls.
So speaking of Virginia, the election on Tuesday,
Yeah.
Does this issue carry over, or where are voters in your state right now?
You know, Virginia is a real military state. So, you know, we're very, very connected to military activity. Virginians have been deployed on the carrier groups to the Middle East, and so that's on people's hearts. I think that the issues that maybe are a little more palpable in Virginia right now, as I've gone around the state, is they watched the House flirt with shutdown. And that affects Virgians. So many work with the federal government. They watched the House flirt with defaults. They watched the House kick out a speaker and then take 3 weeks to pick a new speaker. And that all happened, you know, kind of at the beginning of October. We started early voting September 22nd. So I think the perception up here, particularly on the House side, like, can these guys run things? I think that's going to have a significant impact. I would say that issue. Certainly perceptions of the economy. As I travel around Virginia, what I hear, it's an interesting thought from Virginians. You know, the economy's pretty good for my business right now, but I'm worried about 3 months from now. There's a lot of uncertainty about what's around the corner. And then the other issue that I think is really important is in the aftermath of Dobbs, Virginia is the only state that has protected women's rights, essentially following Roe v. Wade. And that's threatened if Republicans get the majority.
So for the folks who don't live in Maryland, Virginia, or
Yeah.
D.C., who see the commercials, every Republican candidate, at least in every commercial I've seen, is painted as a MAGA extremist who is for a national abortion ban.
Right.
Is that the message that you think these Democrats should be running on? Like, it is the message. That's it that I see on television.
Look, I'm going to be running my own race next year. I'm not on the ballot this year, so I'm not going to comment on the way people are running their races, but they're running the races based on what they're hearing from their voters. And Virginia, again, is the only state in the South that basically has decided, let's follow Roe versus Wade, which is the law of the land that women could rely on for 50 years, and let's not do an abortion ban that would roll back those rights. And that is enormously popular with the Virginia voters. They don't want to roll back women's reproductive freedom. Whatever they think about abortion, they don't want to let the state criminalize women and their doctors. And so that's why you see these ads. And I think, as you've seen in like referenda in other states since the summer of 2022, I think the issue is going to continue to have some real power.
Thank you for watching, and make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.